How's it going, Brad? What is?
Soviet Russia, Siberia, terrifying ancient fungal infections and trippy brainwashing. Doesn't that sound like a hellish concoction? Buonasera, everybody. Boy, have I got a doozy for you today. The first video I uploaded to this channel was about analog horror. It was a university project and it was my first time editing, so it's kinda cringe. But still, I find a lot of analog horror to be really cool, and many of you probably do too. I've been pining to find a little-known analog horror series that nobody yet touched on, but many of those are kinda terrible, and the high-quality ones are always taken. That's when, during a sleepless night while tossing and turning in bed, a thought came to me. Hey, I know Russian. I wonder if there's any Russian analog horror that people haven't talked about yet. Lo and behold, there is, and it's actually very good, surprisingly. So, in this video I will be presenting to you the Siberian Chronicles, translating them and throwing out my theories about them. It's a project by Vasilisa Arbatskaya, with kind of a complicated history that we'll get into at the end. If at any point you enjoy this, I beg you to go and show the creators some love. Go like their videos and subscribe to the channel, they deserve it. Before we get into it, I want to get something out of the way. The series didn't immediately grab me, because it seemed kind of derivative from the well-known and well-established American analog horror series. And to be fair, there is a lot of influence at play here, but the more I dug into it and noticed the smaller details, the more I realized that this absolutely stands on its own two legs. So I'll try to get you to see that too, while at the same time pointing out things like, hey, that's very Mandela, or that's very Monument Mythos, that's pretty cool. But I can't stress this enough, the lore here goes very deep, and there's tons of stuff to unpack. I do think the series keeps getting better the more it progresses, and it will be very apparent even from a technical standpoint. Without further ado, I present to you
The Siberian Chronicles.
This first video is not actually the first. It is a compilation of the short videos put out by the creator up to that point. We'll be looking at the descriptions of all of them to gather information, but be warned, this version has some text added to it at points, which gives us a bunch of context. In the description of this compilation, we get English text saying, "This cassette was kept as additional storage for the videos from the original sources. Someone eventually transferred it to a digital medium. I would like to note that the existence of this digitalization seems strange to me, as after experiencing strange effects, we decided to forget about it and left it far away in a box in the garage. We did not digitalize this recording." Already big creepypasta vibes. The video itself opens on the title card, Krupny Plan, an actual Soviet video company that still exists, mainly tasked with the restoration of all tape recordings. Immediately after, we get an ominous warning telling us repeatedly that the present tape can have negative effects on people and to take it out immediately, with this fun fella in the background. Then we get the following text, saying pretty much the same thing as the description. "These recordings originally belonged to different tapes. We just transferred the most important parts to this VHS recording to prevent the loss of information." Immediately after, we see some Soviet archival videos with music playing in reverse. And then a picture of Mikhail Gorbachev, the last leader of the Soviet Union, whose head just suddenly friggin' flips backwards. In the edited version of the tapes, we get some extra text. We see the phrase, "Why did they leave us to burn in this hell?" appear 2 times over Gorbachev. Then we see a frame saying, "I know that you hear me, but you don't understand. So I'll say that Centrosibirsk really depended on the shipments of supplies. In addition, in that year we were hit with poor harvests and KP. Maybe the USSR still thinks that we're gone. Everyone forgot about us." 1989, the last time that the USSR sent supplies and medicine, right when the city needed them the most. 5,000 people died, all of the livestock died, the district area sunk by 75%. And then, "Is this what you wanted?" in big letters, where the U is singular. We then get some visuals of a babushka and blood dripping. The part ends with the text, "The Great Hunger, 1989-2000. In the edited tapes, we also get text at the end saying, "Beyond the city, there is also life." The city we're talking about is Centrosibirsk, a made-up place that from the name seems to be located in central Siberia. But who is the you that the tape addresses? If we go to the original upload of this part, golodcast2000.vct, we can read the description, which gives us more information. It says, "This video is one of the consequences of the Great Hunger, brought about by the droughts between 1980 and 1984 and by KP. This destroyed all of the outskirts of Centrosibirsk and the nearest settlements, but miraculously the city managed to survive." Interesting. Let's keep going. The next part is called this, and the original description is in English. "In the 1990s, in Centrosibirsk, an epidemic of KP, a dangerous fungus disease affecting many organ systems, began. To make matters worse, resources to combat the pathogen were insufficient. It seemed that even for the creation of this video, old archives of recordings and videotapes were used. The peculiar email address at the end is intriguing. Most likely, the Western form of the internet simply wasn't known there." So now we know what KP stands for, and this fungus disease will be one of the main plot elements for the whole thing. Obviously, you might immediately think of The Last of Us, but this goes in a very different direction, trust me. The second part opens with the logo of Centrosibirsk's government. That with the help of two companies that... Okay, here's the thing. I'm pretty sure some things were lightly retconned going forward, like the companies whose names are spelled here. I'm just gonna say that the last one is probably what we'll come to know as IPIVSH. I don't know how to call it. Let's just call it IPIVSH. Alright, that's an acronym. Keep that in mind. With their collaboration, they made the following tape, which illustrates measures against the epidemic in Centrosibirsk. We then get these fun guys again, and text telling us that at the moment, 1 person out of 5 is infected with KP. This allows the infection to keep prevailing. We need to follow 3 rules. Avoid crowds and close talking. 2. Use the special chip that checks the level of pathogen. 3. Avoid any kind of water. Afterwards, we're shown what the fungus looks like, and we get more information about it. KP, causative agent, fungus, carriers, earthworms, and ray-type creatures. In Russian it's luch, but it's an acronym and can be translated to ray, like a sun ray, you know. It spreads through airborne transmission. It affects the whole body. KP infection, spread of hyphae on all organs through blood and lungs, formation of tumors, damage to the central nervous system, disruption of locomotor system. So yeah, this whole KP business doesn't sound very good, does it? We then get the message, disregarding this information, you put yourself at risk and carry full responsibility for it. And that you won't be given health care in the advanced stages of the disease due to hospital overcrowding. Be prepared for the consequences. Pretty grim, isn't it? We then get the first really spooky and disturbing part of the series. We see the effects of KP on people, and it's very much in the vein of something like Greylock. But it was actually made before that. Antonina Petrovna Popova, born in 1956, died in 1995. Illness period, 2 months. Tried to cure the disease with holy water and shamanic means. Soon she couldn't breathe. Yeah, cause her whole face is missing pretty much. I like that touch about holy water and shamanism, because people in the East really are very superstitious and religious. So it's totally realistic that this is how someone would try to cure themselves. Also, these are the effects of the disease after only 2 months? Damn. Pyotr Ivanovich Chermushkin. Born in 1956 and died in 1995. Illness period 6 months. The parents hid the child from the doctor for half a year. Severe deformities of the face and stomach brought him to die of starvation. Very friggin' messed up, this one. Also, it might just be a mistake, but the fact that the child was supposedly 39 years old is very strange. Arvil Matveyevich Antsifer, born in 1985, died in 1990. Illness period 2 weeks. He kept slamming against the wall of his home for a long time until his neighbors shot him to death. So, this guy straight up became a bird person, which just adds to the weirdness of the disease, having seemingly different deforming effects on different people. Also, this might confirm the age mistake from before, because this guy would have been like 5 years old. They might have switched the ages by mistake. If they didn't, it all just adds to the strangeness of it all. Maria Igorevna Nikuduk, born in 1978, died in 1993. Illness period 1 year. Maria often didn't boil tap water. Her sanity faded before she had noticed any changes. So here we see the effects after an entire year of KP, and she has barely anything recognizably human left. She just looks like a mess of hyphae with 2 eyes. At the end, we get some useful numbers like emergencies, ambulance, and a hotline, and the weird email mentioned in the description for more information. We're also told there's a safe house for the heavily sick on Центральный проспект 42, which sounds like a main street, Центральный being center. And the final advice: protect yourself. Interestingly, in the edited tapes, we also get a frame that is absent from the original upload, which says, "This is still nothing." We move on to the next tape, which is also the first video uploaded to the channel. The original description reads in English: Pygmalion 402 is the original invention by Centrosibirsk scientists for reading and visualizing of thoughts, the best of the Pygmalion series. The frames depict the scanning of thoughts of the academician in biochemistry at the IPIFS University of Centrosibirsk, VP0, after reading abstracts of his students on the topic Fundamentals of Non-Carbon-Based Life Forms. All the other tests of the device were lost forever. Writings from the paper part of the cassette correlated with the time code. Following this, the pen slips and makes several scribbles, as if it was loosely held, almost making no effort to write. Afterward, there is a small cursive, which is very difficult to decipher. The handwriting analysis indicates significant stress and a high speed in writing these letters, with some of them sharply crossed out. So, here we see IPIFS mentioned again, and we find out it's a university. We also have to mention VP0, who will be a major player in all of this. In the video, as we just read, we get the thoughts of the scientist. We also get a frame saying, "Don't watch, imagination has no meaning." We get a few shots of what looks like an interior, with candles and plants, and music playing in the background. Then mostly shots of stuff moving under a microscope. If I had to guess, it's probably something to do with fungi. There's also text that appears here in the compilation tape which says, "So that's how you are. They always hit you for some reason. I've never seen cameras like these. Why didn't Dad tell me about this?" Things ramp up in the next tape, Anashiza.vcd, in which I think Shiza is like schizo, but don't quote me on that. The original description reads, "First film created with the use of Pygmalion 402, taken from the makers. After this, it remained in the archives for a long time, where it miraculously remained intact. At the moment, the history behind the appearance of this video is being investigated, but it's possibly tied to IPIFS, especially VP0, although given his death, we can't find out more. The film reflects the hallucinations and delusions of those sick with KP well, and seems to give us their point of view on what's happening. It's well known that in the late stages of the illness, up to 10% of infected attack their loved ones, and 50% start seeing an animal in the form of a big cat or a bird." We start with quick-paced frame flashes. The first one says, "Search." The next frame shows an endoscopy showing someone's throat with what seems to be plaques, but the implication might be that it's some kind of growth from the disease. Then we get a diagram of the brain, then this. Then images of stuff under a microscope, doctors doing something to babies, and this, which I don't know what it is. Then the film starts and we get the names of the creators, AV0 and D.A. Preobrazhensky. I'll note immediately that this is not the same scientist, Nol, we've read about in the description. As you can see, we also have a coded message, which honestly seems like too much work to decipher. Also, I have no experience with ciphers. If anyone knows Cyrillic and wants to have a go, be my guest. Then we get the title of the film, Anashiza. We also get these trippy visuals, which will be a recurring thing, maybe tied to the hallucinations of KP patients. We then get archival videos of everyday Soviet life. Then we pan out and see that it was images shown on a TV with a classic Eastern grandma cloth on top, which is actually Sierpinski's triangle, again with the trippy imagery. We then see that a girl is watching the TV. She sits on the couch while we get more trippy visuals. Then we see a watch and another coded message, which people deciphered in the comments. It's Fyodor Tyutchev's poem Silentium. Speak not, lie hidden and conceal, the way you dream, the things you feel. Deep in your spirits, let them rise, akin to stars in crystal skies, that set before the night is blurred, delight in them and speak no word. And it goes on like that. It's a poem about concealing one's feelings and not speaking to anyone about one's thoughts, while something keeps growing inside of you. Very fitting. Right after we get another cipher, which when decoded reads as follows. Maria Zakharova, Nikolai Skinev, Grigory Potapov. Also cats, the dog is accounted for. Is being homeschooled. Is missing without a trace. The illnesses are manifold. Impairment of the eyes and of the bones, anomalies in the larynx, psychological disorders. I don't really know what this might be all referring to yet. We then see the girl on the couch again, and text that says, "It's so nice outside. The sun, the trees, the people. Why don't they let me out? Why am I here?" And we can assume that's the girl talking. We then see this nice face coming up on the screen. Big Cheshire cat vibes, but it also kind of looks like it's got a beak, maybe? So I'm assuming this is the big cat bird that 50% of the infected people are seeing. It answers the girl.
You know why? Just take off your glasses.
She does, and we get a POV shot of someone, maybe her, walking. We then see a man and a woman in a kitchen talking. Anna's grown up. She'll understand everything soon. We then see the girl looking wide-eyed at them. Anna? They mutter. Whoa, what are you doing here? We're so sorry. And we get more black screen, and an answer pops up for a frame. Why haven't you said anything about this? We then see who I'm assuming to be Anna again, but she's different. Her eyes look red and empty. Then we get a frame with a close-up of one eye, in which a window seems to be reflected. The next tape is Green Plyonka 1, or green tape in English. The description reads, "This tape came into our possession after an Ashiza VCD from an unknown person. Its quality was a bit worse than usual. The audio was especially corrupted. This is not surprising, seeing as the casing of the tape was filled with scratches and other damages. We gave it this code name because of the greenish hue visible in certain parts of the material. The recording itself was obviously done over the video KP0 and Patience 0, but we didn't know more than that. Moreover, our team is too busy investigating the existence of the recording itself. That's why we started working on the investigation into the biography of N.K. Preobrazhensky, the only person whose photograph we could recognize. If our assumptions are right, then this might affect his career and plunge the whole city into chaos once more." We already saw the name Preobrazhensky in the last tape, but that was a D.A. Preobrazhensky, not N.K. We start with the text saying KP0 and Patient 0. And that's patients, multiple, which is strange because you usually have one Patient 0. That's kind of the whole point, right? Then we see the KP virus again, and it's fruit body or sporocarp, with text telling us some of its effects again. 1. Irreversible changes to the phenotype and the genotype. 2. Mental disorders. 3. The ability to absorb radioactivity. I'm not sure if I'm translating that right. At the same time, we hear a voice telling us,
Известно, что самое опасное в инфицировании патогеном КП – это генетические модификации тела человека, психологические нарушения без возможности восстановления. Однако, недавно было выяснено, что нынешняя форма КП уже стала гораздо более безопасная, бессимптомная версия болезни, которую мы решили назвать КП0 или нулевая версия болезни. Частично сохранившаяся ДНК гриппа, которая является КП0, была найдена в кабинете.
Here it cuts out and we get a frame with the text, "All of the infected are linked," which kinda sent shivers down my spine, not gonna lie. We then see a conversation between a girl and her father. "Forgive me, father, may I speak to you?" Don't bother me. I only want to ask something. Don't bother me. Father, please. I'm in so much pain. We've run out of medicine. I couldn't sleep the whole night. When I got up, my pillow was covered in something black, wet and warm. I got scared and ran, and my hands are covered in something red, and it's like I have no strength, and the beast told me to run to you. Shut up. I'm very busy right now. Dad, open the door, please. Please, Dad. Dad. During most of the interaction, we can faintly see the Cheshire Thing's face in the background, and I'm assuming he is the beast that speaks to sick people. We finish with this fun face and the text 1 out of 4. In the edited tapes, we also get a frame with the writing, "He's obsessed with only one goal." So this guy might be the girl's father, seeing as he's too busy to talk to her. He might be the obsessed one. Also, remember how the description said that they only recognize N.K. Preobrazhensky? Well, this is the only man whose picture we see, so the girl's father might be him. We then get the second part and the last tape in the collection, Green Plonka 2. The original description reads, "The second part of the tape is even stranger. This time the recording contains 6 portraits, of which we recognized, apart from Nikolai, a few more people, whose name is not advisable to share. In any case, our assumptions are being confirmed. It's essential that we find informations about all people mentioned in this video." This might have just given us Preobrazhensky's name, Nikolai. We get a continuation of the KPE0 tape. This time, the voice and the text tell us that it's absolutely necessary to find patients suffering from KPE0, to study them and confirm that they have no negative physical or psychological effects, that they should be observed for 12 days in different conditions. The recording cuts out again and we get the text, Test 2. The deceased name is redacted. He's been sick for 2 years and is 18 years old. We then see someone moving in a cage in the dark while a voice says something which I can't understand. And it's... well, it seems like a pretty bad 3D render on which they threw a billion effects to make it barely visible, but let's just ignore that. Still, it's very hard to make out, but it seems like they have something on their head, or their head is deformed in some way. The text then says, Objective, establish contact and determine the psychological conditions of the deceased. We see the figure again and the voice asks,
Вот главный вопрос. Есть ли у вас какое-то заболевание? Чувствуете ли вы себя больным?
We get some text in English saying,
I can talk.
While the date in the bottom left transforms for a moment into
Funny. Hi.
then into a bunch of 3s.
Your screen isn't working.
Then a bunch of A's broken up by text saying
I can talk.
in Russian, then in English again,
Why people so egos?
and
Okay, tell a story. Not all become two monsters, but still be people.
then the text forms a smiling face that frowns and some random letters. Then repeated the word,
Cry.
then,
Man is a full fantasy or a lie.
then,
Help.
repeatedly, in which
I'm not me, but
appears. I'm gonna throw something in here. I think this shows us that the infected can communicate among themselves because we've been told they're all connected. Ergo why it refers to Anna, which I'm thinking is Anashiza. And also maybe they interact directly with technology. I think this is literally the patient's answer, and it also makes sense when we think about the fact that the beast speaks through the television. Then we get sliding text. The first line repeats, Open the door. And the second, What happened to you? And the third, Please answer us. The fourth, Is everything alright? And we see these two guys, and suddenly, I don't want to go to sleep anymore. It's very Mandela catalog style, kinda goofy but still uncanny enough to make you uncomfortable. I also think that those lines sound like worried parents whose kid just closed themselves in a room, and seeing the two people might confirm that. I think they're Anna's parents, and that she closed herself in her room after finding out about being infected, and they're afraid she might hurt herself. Then the text, "Now I can answer you," and we're shown this. Again, I think this might be Anna's answer, as in, now that she accepted the infection, she entered the ranks of the infected and they can all communicate. Then we have a bunch of pictures of other people with darkened eyes, while the red infected silhouette stands in the middle. This might be implying that all of these people are infected, or something else. We then get a picture of a seraphim angel, because of course it has to get religious, like any self-respecting analog horror series. The writing, "KP is not just an illness," follows, and then, "make him understand that we need to live." And we see the beast once more, grinning at us. Whatever the beast is, it seems to be the virus's way to communicate with people, implying also that the virus might be somewhat intelligent. The recording cuts out again, and we're back to the original KP0 tape, which is now telling us, "This way, isolate KP0 in pure form. Obtain a hybrid of KP0 and KP1 with the control effect AABASS1. Synthesize human embryos for the project New Man, but infected with KP, and grow them at accelerated rates. Move to the reconstructed bunker. Drop a bomb on Centrosibirsk. Raise new people capable of speeding up the progress." Now this is a big information dump. We end on text telling us that the creators of the project are N.K. Preobrazhensky and A.T. Noll, and some more stuff moving under the microscope. At the end of the edited tapes version, we get the text telling us, "After the initial viewing of this tape, we noticed that someone edited it in the period between its creation and our second viewing. At this time, the identity of the person is unknown." So this accounts for all the new pieces of text that weren't present in the original uploads, and probably a way to justify the changes that the author made. But with this, we get to the end of the first compilation tape. We got some big informations right there at the end. Whoever Preobrazhensky and Noll are, they seem to be behind some messed up stuff. They also seem to be working to use the virus in their superhuman program. The next episode is a full one, not a compilation. The creator seems to be moving in a bolder direction with this. Rakasel incident of the 31st of December 1989. I want to mention that the name Rakasel is pretty funny because it seems to be a reference to the hijacking of the children's channel Karusel, which I still don't know if it actually happened or if it's just an urban legend. To start off, the description is a doozy this time, so strap the hell in, or just skip forward, you know. But it's also interesting because from this point on we have sort of a B-plot evolving in the descriptions of the series, centered around the team that's reviewing the tapes. After the green tape, we decided to figure out the situation concerning Preobrazhensky and the other faces shown in the recording. For this, we tried to find the unknown person that sent this tape, but they found us. Turns out the person was a former graduate and employee of IPIFSH, who suffered directly from the impact of KP, V.L. Chirimushkina. She gave us a stack of cassettes and tapes from different years, which, according to her, she took before the renovation of the IPIFSH archives. We asked about the people from the green tape. You don't know? They were quite well known in their time. Like here, for example, the Nolls. Nolls? We asked, thinking at first that it was some stupid prank. But we immediately remembered Anna from Anna Shiza. She also had this weird surname. And also immediately the first tape from Pygmalion. Yes, the Nolls. Once, when Vladimir was giving a lecture about anatomy, he let it slip that his granddad, an extravagant and philosophical man, decided to change his family name from Koltsov to Noll. Which, by the way, an aside, in Russian Koltso is ring, Noll is 0. So the change makes sense even though it seems pointless. There beside him is his wife, and this is Nikolai Konstantinovich. She frowned strangely. What is it? I don't like Preobrazhensky, but Noll I hate, if we're being honest. They're all from the same crop, disliked, plagued by their own eccentricities. Instead of medicine, they would mostly talk about communism and stars. When the tragedy went down in Rakasel, yeah, tragedy. The Epifsh got off with an obituary and covered up everything else. That's when I transferred to the technology faculty to try and understand what was going on. She frowned even more, and her eyes seemed to shine like she was trying not to cry. She seemed to freeze up, only her body sometimes trembled slightly. "Are you alright, Valentina?" She quickly raised her eyes, nodded awkwardly, and after a quick dig, took out a videotape with the writing RI. "Take it. If you have questions, call me. But please, this has to remain secret. There's stuff about the noise and about her." At home, we watched the tape and re-recorded the most important bits to a disc. Tomorrow we'll call Chermushkina, seeing as the questions only multiplied. Also, Vovka disappeared somewhere. He said he wanted to study at least the nearest infected areas. We weren't able to stop him. So yeah, lots of information right there. It seems that this guy is Vladimir Nol, and this is his wife. And Anna is confirmed to be their daughter. They worked at the University Epifsh with Preobrazhensky and were all very eccentric. The university seemed to have something to do with whatever tragedy happened at the time. Also, it seems like this B-plot is being told in our time, or at least years after the events depicted in the tape. And we now know that the infection is still there, seeing as there still are infected areas. The tape starts with even more text saying,
"From 1983, because of a deficit in products, a cart system was put in place. Soon, sausages, toilet paper, and appliances stopped appearing even in Moscow and Leningrad. These were the first steps of the current misery."
We then see a child's drawings, a little girl's. They say,
"This is my family."
"Very lovely." Then,
"This is Dad Kolya."
Which, by the way, Kolya is short for Nikolai, as in Nikolai Preobrazhensky. And yeah, Papa Kolya looks kind of fucked up. We also see something about bones in the lower corner. She seems to be drawing on a paper or a biology book.
"And this is Georgi." But he calls himself David. When Gosha is not here, I get scared and cry. That's when Kolya starts beating me. Then Georgi comes and he beats Dad. I'm scared. I'm guilty.
That mean everything will be alright?
That's just pretty heavy, man. This kind of stuff always messes me up. Then the recording glitches out, and on the bottom of the screen we get text moving way too fast that says,
"Our government wanted to create superhumans for a long time, but those who preceded us tried to do it through brainwashing and the merging of flesh with steel. But this is all pointless. Like the Aral Sea, the fruits of their labor were painful and short-lasting. We realized that superhuman is not just a better human, but something absolutely new. We searched for its form and finally found it, free from prejudice and habit, beyond gender and capable of directly bonding with technology. We can still hardly believe it ourselves. But now we need to find new models of behavior and give these new shells a number of instincts and innate models. Why is this necessary? Our species is made for the maximum facilitation of our own existence, but this is a path to nowhere. We need a different vector. The effort to increase our range will lead us to new planets, to inhabit the stars and space itself, then go beyond the boundaries of the universe. In the same way, the control of a single unified form of communication built into the organism itself can give a new society common goals and duties and bring communist ideas into reality. Also, it's been long known that development progresses through the consolidation of single units into even more complex units, and so on forever. Energy, particles, atoms, molecules, complex molecules, cells, nuclear cells, multicellular, symbiosis and social groups, specialization. Why not just help evolution with all of it? Comrades, I believe in this idea, and I begin new experiments.
And here it cuts off. Not gonna lie, this whole spiel goes pretty hard. And I think it's fair to say that this is Vladimir Nol or Preobrazhensky in one of their lectures, which Chermushkina said devolved into speeches about communism and space. We get more glitches in than an old cartoon of a boy going up to a cow saying,
Опомнись, не придет он совсем. Теперь я тебя буду.
Before the cow jump scares him and the video suddenly cuts to a transmission from the channel CTC or CTC, in which we get a better explanation for what the institute known as IPIFSH is.
New technologies, 4 faculties, with the help of CTC and others. Technology, medicine, biology, architecture. It's not just an institute, it's a friendly family that's inviting everyone among their walls. Our instructors. Abed Tverzhnikova,
Responsible for the Faculty of Architecture.
and Kab Gebrzhensky.
Responsible for the Faculty of Technology. Hey, this guy again. His picture flashes and we get a confirmation that he is the man at the end of the first green tape,
AT0.
who's responsible for the Biology Faculty, and if I read that correctly, is studying DNA. I don't know why, but among all of the pictures, hers is the one that creeps me out the most.
VP0.
Her husband, headmaster and responsible for the Faculty of Medicine, especially studying transplantations. At least now we know for certain who's who. At the bottom we get some weird random ads like CTC saying they're hiring, someone selling fossils and other stuff. The screen starts flashing and we can barely make out a man's face. Then we get a barely legible list of what I'm assuming to be provisions maybe? Stuff like
158 grams of fish, 188 grams of brown bread,
and at the bottom,
daily insulin for the animals.
we then see a public announcement from the Faculty of Medicine. It invites students from every faculty to join them for a week on a sudden field trip to the village of Rakosel, and they'll get some money and products as compensation. We then hear an interview with Chermushkina herself.
Последний раз я его видела на рынке. Он что-то там искал. На самом деле как-то каким-то скованным выглядел, что ли. И я к нему подошла, решила спросить, все ли с ним хорошо. Он поднял глаза и он спросил меня, есть ли у меня лишние талоны на дефицитные продукты. Я его спросила, ваша семья же может позволить? И он как-то на меня очень косо посмотрел, знаете, внутри как будто бы все сжалось, что ли. Не знаю, мне было очень неудобно. И он просто потом как-то, не знаю, как будто бы изнутри его что-то хотело вырваться, что-то... Он хотел меня, наверное, поругать, я думаю. А потом он просто продолжил идти дальше по рынку. И больше я его не видела. И в последнее время он, не знаю, он действительно какой-то стал нелюдимый. Он в последнее время сидит в институте, он никуда не уходит. И, знаете, я и так плохо относилась к институту технологий, но теперь мне, на самом деле, в последнее время страшно думать обо всем, что происходит сейчас в нашем городе.
We can infer that she's talking about Preobrazhensky. We then cut to what looks like a bunch of roots, or hyphae, which would be more fitting, and we're told that the video we're watching is about the Rakosel incident, and was made with the collaboration of IPIFSH and CTC.
In December of 1989, citizens of the area complained about the spread of an unknown infection that affected almost all of the animals around the Rakosel factory. A group of volunteers from IPIFSH was sent to investigate. The Rakosel village is shown in red. Even though the group was supposed to stay for 4 days, the operation ended on the second day. 6 people died.
Then we get a retelling of the events, starting at 2 p.m. of the 30th of December. We see some cows on a farm.
The sick animals were isolated in the stables. Because of the separation of the cows and their calves, there is a lot of noise. sick animals, we can see skin growths. Many are weak and paralyzed.
We then skip to 5 p.m.
Because of the improper isolation of the animals, the meat stock ended up being infected. Turns out part of the infected meat was fed to the dogs. Because of this, the infection spread outside the meat processing plant.
And we see some dogs and then this, whatever it is. I'm not sure what's going on here.
All of the dogs found were exterminated.
We skip to 8 p.m.
We decided to check the water purity of the Rakesel reservoir. Walking towards it, we could notice a fish die off, even though there wasn't a lot of ice. We took the carcasses and inspected them closely. Apart from the tumors and ulcers, the fish had growths resembling limbs and deformed fins. Later we found some living fish far from the edge of the water. We found no healthy animals in the area of the reservoir. All of the animals were reported to have tumors, deformations of the body, mainly the locomotive system. However, we wanted to get information on the behavior of infected animals. Cow Mashka, late stages of the disease. The separation from her calf sped up the disease. We decided to record the behavior of the infected animals to assess the damage to their brains, and to then do an autopsy. We moved Mashka in the shed and locked it for the night. Outside it was cold and humid. They went to sleep, but I wasn't feeling well, and I left.
We then see the same face we saw during the screen flashes before. Close to midnight we see something moving, and it's difficult to make out, but judging from the noises, I think this is Mashka. We then see a dark shape gets close to the screen and two very Mandela-style eyes appear from it. The deformed face of the cow then appears, telling us, puts baby in pocket vibes. We wait like this for a few moments and then the screen goes crazy with flashes from the drawings of the girl we've seen before and the immense scream. Now this is all creepy but also pretty damn funny if you ask me. And I'm pretty sure that the author is aware of this too, seeing as they used the famous meme scream which everyone commented about. We realized that this was probably the reason for the 6 deaths and the interruption of the field trip as we see an ambulance speeding down the road. We then see that the author of the video is N.K. Preobrazhensky, which raises a few questions. Was it him writing in the first person, saying that he didn't feel well and left? Then whose face were we shown before? And why is he making such a video? We then get a bunch of text that lasts 2 frames.
This film was possible thanks to the students of the technology faculty of IPIFSH. They managed to manually restore the tape from the broken cameras, which allowed us to see the last hours of life of the victims. We give our sincere condolences to all the victims and to those who lost their family members in this tragedy.
I guess this explains the origins of the video, but the first person text is still a mystery.
Eternal memory. The 31st of November.
Notice the inconsistencies of the dates. It's supposed to be December.
In the village of Rakesel, because of a tragic event, 6 students from IPIFSH Institute either died or disappeared with no trace. The headmaster, VP Nol, gives his condolences to the families and friends of the victims and is ready to give money from IPIFSH's budget for the funerals. At the moment, the bodies are located in the medicine faculty building on street.
This street.
On the 1st floor. You can come and collect them at any moment.
Then we see the victims.
Maria Karlovna Antsifer,
like the guy who slammed himself against the wall.
Ivan Vladimirovich Chermushkin,
maybe the brother of Chermushkina or her husband.
Alla Ivanovna Koshek,
and then
Dmitry Leontievich Stukov, David Nikolaevich Preobrazhensky,
and
Анастасия Львова Попова.
wait, roll that back. David Nikolaevich Preobrazhensky? First of all, he looks like the guy whose face we see flash a few times in the video. Second, this is obviously the son of Nikolai Preobrazhensky, who we now know well enough. Also, this seems to confirm that David is Georgi, the brother of the girl whose drawing we were shown at the start, and that Papa Kolya is Nikolai himself. As we've seen, their relationship wasn't very good, so this raises even more questions.
We remember, love, and mourn.
We also get a statement from Vladimir Nol.
Whatever happens, we will remember you the way you were, the pride of our teachers and the energy of our community.
At least that's who we see in the picture, but the name you get is VP Preobrazhensky. Now, the inconsistencies in this series are way too many to be just mistakes. The surnames being swapped has to be intentional. Then we see the beast again, while a voice monologues reading parts of Alexander Blok's diary and reciting his famous poem, Night Street Lamp Chemist.
Ночью почти все время скверно сплю. Нечего делать здесь. Ужасы вьются кругом меня всю неделю. Отовсюду появляется страшная рожа, точно хочет сказать: «А, ты вот какой! Зачем ты напряжен? Думаешь, делаешь, строишь, зачем?» Ночь, улица, фонарь, аптека, бессмысленный и тусклый свет. Живи еще хоть четверть века, все будет так, исхода нет. Умрешь, начнешь опять сначала, и повторится все, как встарь. Ночь, ледяная рябь канала, аптека.
In the meantime, we see an animal skull next to a human one, and behind them, barely visible, we see David's face once more. With this, we've finished the second full-length video, and things seem to be even more muddied. We understand that Preobrazhensky and the Nol's couple definitely know more than they let on about everything that is happening. If I had to guess, I'd say they're all infected with the KP0 version of the virus, which seems to be asymptomatic, but obviously it still does something to you. It also seems like they're in cahoots with the government to use the virus to create a new superhuman to dominate the world, and then even space itself. It seems like the whole of Centrosibirsk is being used as grounds to experiment with this virus. But let's keep going and maybe we'll get more answers. Tape 2. Fractal Voice Phenomenon. Yeah, the naming of the videos is kinda confusing. I guess tape 2 is meant as full tape, seeing as the first one was a compilation. We get another long description under the video. Cheremushkina's library turned out to be quite vast. We often found recordings of old CTC broadcasts, recordings of some movies and cartoons, newsreels, and so forth. Tapes marked with green numbers stood out especially. Sometimes it wasn't penciled, sometimes paint, or even common zilonka. They always contained recordings of broadcasts or materials on which a fractal voice appeared. A particular type of glitches for which intricate patterns and spots could be seen. They looked like specific existing objects. The same handwriting was on all of them, and many numbers were missing. This tape attracted us firstly for the mention of a Nol and the presence of an old photograph of the Preobrazhensky family. Moreover, the tape obviously contained material from the Krapivniki, who at the moment are keeping Centrosibirsk safe. Without them, the city would have been long lost, as they managed to implement developments that were at first intended to kill people for the rapid development of industries and agriculture. There's always a sense of unease when touching on something directly related to the government. But here something was wrong. This tape was already overwritten with other recordings, which resulted in the bad quality of the material. The material itself was re-edited, and on the casing itself there was written tape 5. Finally, most of the material consists of therapeutic videos. More precisely, they're prototypes. Unlike modern ones, they contain a lot of patterns and visual noise. Soon we'll review the tape again, as so far it is still difficult for us to fully solve this puzzle. On the bright side, Vovka is alive. He phoned from Musunga. He found what he was looking for there. We're only afraid of one thing. His voice sounded very strange. Let's jump into the tape. We begin with Krupny Plan's logo again, which presents us with
Conversations Before Sleep, Scene 1, Episode 7. aired the 12th of May 1990.
It's a crude 3D animated children's cartoon in which we see these bird-like creatures hanging around in a surreal and empty space, with a human outline on the floor. Then some text pops up saying,
"The scene must be redone because of a mistake."
It's hard to tell what this mistake is, seeing as the video is heavily corrupted.
The programmers refused to continue working because of an unexplained unease. At the moment, Ipivs is investigating the mistake.
We then get the logo of the Krapivniki. By the way, Krapiva means nettle. That's why the logo has a nettle leaf on it.
Within the research into the effects of therapeutic videos on the human organism. Welcome to the trial of therapeutic films. In this session, you will watch a few tapes in sequence. Your goal, record all of the emotions, sensations, and urges that you feel during the session. Say them out loud during the viewing or write them down on the dedicated paper you've been given. If you suffer from epilepsy or other hypersensitivity to flashing lights, immediately refuse the viewing. Ready? If yes, tell the organizer and write the date on the dedicated paper. Good. Session 8.
We then get a trippy montage of images. At one point we can make out Anna from Anna Shiza in the background. Then scenes from conversations before sleep.
Describe what you felt during the viewing. When you're done, give the paper to the supervisor of the experiment.
And lo and friggin' behold, who could it be if not the Nol chick? I hate this bitch so much. I get cold shivers anytime I see her damn eyes.
The next session will be next week. Participation is mandatory.
We then get the results from the sessions.
Valentina wrote, "The beginning made me happy. Later, irrationally scared. Then I understood that all of this is pointless in the face of the death of all of us. And I felt more peaceful."
Normal things that normal people say, right?
Michael wrote, "This gave me confidence. Beauty turned into horror, giving me hope again. I'm more and more convinced that a great future awaits us." Konstantin wrote, "A feeling of fear. I felt someone's pain." Elena wrote, "Hopelessness and also someone's careful gaze. At the same time, the feeling of happiness for no reason. Pretty disgusting." Alexei wrote, "I felt stability, if you can say that. She's in hibernation, like all of us."
Who's she? It could also be the feminine it in this case.
Georgi wrote, "Nothing."
Don't try too hard there, my man, but also his name is Georgi, just like David Preobrazhensky's real name, according to the little girl's drawings. Suspicious.
Radi wrote, "The pain from KP became weaker somewhere in the middle. These reels help me contain the illness, and the emotions I feel become unimportant."
So, are all of these people actively sick with KP?
Veronika wrote, "Good, peaceful. Vera feels good and quiet. The baby's crying."
Excuse me, what?
Alexei wrote, "Someone's presence, their thoughts. We both felt so bad that it seemed like this would never end." Ivan wrote, "I felt nothing except shame. I don't understand how anyone came up with this nonsense." Dmitry wrote, "This is the only thing still keeping me human, but I'm afraid of what's behind this cure." Nikolai wrote, "This cannot be. Only 3 people saw her, but they're dead."
I'm not sure what he's referring to. Yeyo is feminine and could be used both for a person and an object. I'm thinking this is Nikolai Preobrazhensky, and that he's talking about his daughter. We do get a montage of images of a baby with the writing
"Daddy!"
underneath. The montage consists of a baby, then a baby with what we assume to be the parents, then a young couple, and then a family with 2 kids. A date flashes for a frame afterwards.
20th of December 1989.
We then get more text.
"It's very dirty here. It feels like people haven't lived here for a million years. Why don't you try and pull yourself together and clean up all of our things? Why haven't you tried going forward in 5 years? We're all still here, but you don't even try to solve the problem. You run to the institute and close yourself off from us to film the broadcast. Your daughter loves Kima from conversations more than she loves you. She started to forget you. Don't you find this abnormal? What will happen to you if we suddenly died like her? Will you remember us only then? Would you dedicate conversations before sleep to Sveta and me?"
The next part is a montage of Soviet archival footage with some text quickly running underneath. And I can't make it out, but someone in the comments transcribed it. It's a conversation between Preobrazhensky and Anastasia. That's the Nol lady.
Коля, look at how you've let yourself go. You skipped classes, you're late for the shoots. You should be fired. But I know how precious of a specialist you are for us. Nonetheless, if you're not staying, my husband will definitely fire you. I'm completely fine, Anastasia Timofeyevna. There's no need to worry. Soon I'll recover and everything will be as before. I'm not blaming you. Losing 2 children is heavy. I can tell you that Sveta from the Life Institute asked to tell you to make a new episode of Conversations. She passed peacefully before my eyes. So at least one of your children passed without fear and pain. Why are you saying this? I need to forget them. I know it's hard for you. None of it is your fault. It's just circumstance. And we can fix this feeling of guilt. I can help you with it. You won't suffer anymore. And now I'm speaking seriously. We found out that a collection of thoughts from sufferers of KP from neurosis can heal people, both from KP and other illnesses. Don't worry, people mostly weren't hurt. Are you ready, Preobrazhensky? I'm sorry, I need to think about it. You're not guilty of anything. I'm always ready to help. Your skills, which many didn't appreciate, would be very useful to me. I'll drag you out of the pit and up to the top. Our team is preparing a little project in the midst of all of this chaos, and soon many will benefit. Peacefulness, stability, recognition. Isn't this what you want, Nikolai? We will rid you of your torments and memories. You'll even forget how a bottle of alcohol looks. I guarantee it. My home will always be waiting for you. You will always have fresh bread in spite of all the misery, and this bread will be yours. I'm sorry, I need to go. I'll think about it. I don't know. All right, Nikolai. Simply trust in the winds of change like a fluttering butterfly.
We then start getting images of prehistoric times, depictions of dinosaur-like creatures and stuff. And we get the title card.
Permian-Triassic Extinction Event. Biology presentation for high schools.
We're told that
In 1938, the inhabitants of the village of Musunka found some outlandish animal skeletons. Soon, a group of Soviet scientists arrived on the scene. They couldn't classify the bones as any known type of animal. They were very deformed. They could have extra limbs or distorted skulls. And only recently, with the development of new fossil dating methods, the mystery was solved. It was determined that under the layer of dirt lay vertebrates of the late Permian period. Analysis showed that all of them died in a short time span, a few thousand years. But what could have exterminated them?
we get an almost invisible flash of what looks like David. Soon after, we also get a barely visible flash of what seems like Preobrazhensky's daughter from the green tape.
In Centrosibirsk, pieces of amber, more or less 250 million years old, can be found.
We're shown some examples and some evolutionary information, that in the Permian period there was the biggest evolution of aeromorphic traits, of which the first carriers aren't known yet, traits such as
Warm-bloodedness, viviparity, air absorption, fur, complex ear structure, bipedalism, socialization, opposable thumbs, tool use.
Then, for a moment,
complication of the ear structure.
Which is interesting because it seems to imply that the structure gets even more complex.
But usually animals with progressive traits die out, leaving no offspring. This is confirmed by the theory of the Krapivniki that nature is incapable of producing the perfect being. It is theorized that the Permian Triassic extinction event was caused by a massive pouring out of magma in Siberia, which killed 90% of all animals. But the findings show that this cannot explain the skeletons, that sometimes defy the theory of evolution or even common sense. And we found the answer.
We then get a flash of something that might be a fungus. So, KP? We then see a butterfly with Latin text saying,
"And I will destroy the butterfly not by force, but by an invisible voice in the name of a new kind."
We then see an animation and told it's a recording made with the thought visualization device Pygmalion 402. In the animation we see a man walking among a crowd of people, holding a kid by hand. We also see text moving fast at the bottom with ads, and they're all more or less in vein of
"Only God can save this world of sinners,"
and such.
Patient, Ave Nol, age 8 years old, illnesses, diabetes, eye disorders, locomotor system disorders, anomalies of the larynx, indeterminate psychological disorders, KP.
We then see the man by himself looking up at the sun, and a bunch of numbers appear. When decoded, they give us,
"Is there anybody out there?
and other glitches saying stuff like,
Please help me.
and
I can't open my eyes."
the man then gets carried off by a crowd seemingly walking in lockstep. Then more text.
Circumstances of the recording. 3 days after the relocation to the special wing in Rakosel's test site. It is essential to determine the status of the future Whistler from this tape.
I don't know what the Whistler thing is about, but maybe I'm just reading it wrong. The man appears again, and again he looks at the sun. We get a flash of the same trippy imagery used in the therapeutic films. The man starts walking in the opposite direction of the crowd, and we see more flashes.
The recording was made at 11:03 p.m. on April 16, 1990.
We then get spooky sounds and flashes of Mashka the cow's face and something else, like a humanoid mutant with an elongated face. We also get flashes of what might be Vladimir Nol's face, but only made from dots, and a map of Centrosibirsk's area. And of course this bitch appears too. Way too close this time. We also see Preobrazhensky's daughter's face. Then food on the table, and then prominently the logo of the Krapivniki. Also we hear what might be Morse code. If anyone wants to translate it, be my guest.
The Whistler is suitable. It's essential that we diminish the influence of the brain to translate the signals of the infection into the video format well.
And with this, the third video is over. So, what the hell is going on? We got a lot to work with. First, it seems that KP is actually a very ancient virus that might have killed off all the animals of the late Permian period. We see that their skeletons show the same symptoms as do humans. So there's a natural question here. How did it start spreading again? Well, the easiest answer would be that the people from Ipivsh and the government synthesized it modern times to try and use it to create superhumans. It seems that these therapeutic films are also some kind of brainwashing program, and they have many similarities to the video that come out of Pygmalion 402. So there's gotta be a connection here. Also, we still don't know what the hell is up with the Krapivniki. And who's the Whistler at the end? My theory is that it's Preobrazhensky, but I don't know if there's enough proof. I'm going off the imagery showing people he knows and also the animation of the man whose child is suddenly gone. Let's keep going and maybe this time things will clear up. Video 4.
Musunka, 1708-1994.
The description reads as follows. Yesterday, Vovka came back with a videotape. His breathing was heavy and he was smiling. In his words, he had to inspect more than a few abandoned houses. Although the place of the finding didn't look abandoned, it was obvious that somebody lived in there and periodically filled a stack of tapes. Near there lied a doll of Kima and a sleeping bag, and also stacks of unidentified notebooks. Vovka spent the night there, grabbing a couple of videotapes and recording some footage. "Why the hell did you go in there, Volodya Nosov?" He got quiet. We looked at the tapes again. All of them were marked in green. We looked at the footage. Green spots like fireflies were on all the local carriers. Not sure about this translation. When I was leaving, I saw the figure of a man. I was already far away when he entered the house, but I will remember his eyes forever. There was something heavy in them. We started digitalizing the first of the tapes. We absolutely need to know who that man was. We decided Vova and Ivan will soon go back to find him. Irina and Sasha will keep going with the current work. Vasily, Grisha, and Nastya will try to give some structure to all the information we know so far. After this, we watched the first of the tapes. "Now you understand why I did this," said Vova, when after 18 minutes we were just staring into the dark screen. Suddenly, Nastya raised a hand. This one is a doozy. It's a whopping 18 minutes episode, and it has maybe the strongest start so far, because we see this freaking bolt. We see a recording from a helicopter with the date saying
1708-1994, 10:29 a.m.
But this freaking guy. As soon as they get closer, we see the camera start to fail and the trippy imagery we're used to starts to appear. This is important, keep it in mind. And we hear the helicopter fall and crash to the ground. Then people are screaming.
Musunka, 1994.
Well, that's one way to start the video.
12:23 a.m. 1707-1994.
Dating mistakes seem to be recurring in this series, but I don't know if they have any meaning actually.
Rakaselsk. Recording of a phone call to the dispatcher of the Department for the Protection of the Population from a KP. The audio wasn't preserved. Good morning, you called 88. The conversation will be recorded. Hello? There's a ray near western Rakaselsk. Moving towards the apartment buildings. Make a fire, scare it off, and use therapeutic films. You don't understand. 30 meters in length. You can't turn on electronic devices because of the F-voice. I contacted the nearest helicopter. Why are you making things up? We're already having a difficult day because of the anniversary of the party. There haven't been any helicopters today. Please. Flying ray. 30 meters. Failure of all electronics. 6 people. Alright, we told the helicopters to fly faster to your Listen to me. Citizen dispatcher, I've been trying to contact you for 3 hours. People are dying here, and this thing is moving in the direction of the city. This anniversary, 1 helicopter won't be enough. The helicopter is almost there and soon will solve your problem.
And we hear more explosions and screams.
A total of 20 phone calls were made from this number between 7:12 and 10:20 a.m. 8:59 p.m. 17/07/1994.
Again with the dating mistake.
Musunka, the central broadcasting of Centrosibirsk presents information program Herald.
And a woman's voice tells us.
Здравствуйте, дорогие зрители. Сегодня утром отмечался юбилей независимой Центросибирской республики, надежно управляемой партией крапивников. После событий января 1912 года испуганная просоветская верхушка города попыталась сбежать в бункера, но погибла из-за недостатка еды и устаревшей защиты комнат. Последний чиновник погиб при первомайской давке протестующих на Ленинской площади, после чего жители Центросибирска около месяца жили в полной анархии. Тогда город спасли крапивники, выходцы из ИПФЖ, которые смогли за короткое время затормозить КП и вернуть электричество, продукты первой необходимости в дома. Сейчас же на Ленинской площади горожане впервые за 5 лет смогут попробовать разнообразное мороженое и газированные напитки. От работы на 1 день освобождены многие люди. Мы сможем перегнать советский уровень жизни за ближайшие 4 года, если будем следовать 2 главным вещам – коллектив и технологии, заявил глава партии крапивников Илья Петров. Несмотря на КП, мы развили систему электронной информационной сети и создали искусственную еду. Вперед, товарищи! Крапивники доказывают свои слова делом. За 5 лет смертность выровнялась с рождаемостью, а 30% населения смогли получить работу. Возможно, мы впервые за 30 лет чувствуем то же, что и наши родители. Веру в будущее.
We then see a statue of Lenin and a man speaking.
На центральной площади обсуждают судьбу металлического вождя. Власть предложила демонтировать и переплавить Ленина для нужд восстанавливающегося города. Центросибирск испытывает острый недостаток ресурсов, в том числе и качественной стали. Но многие не хотят убирать местную достопримечательность. Скульптура была установлена в 1950 году и известна своей темной историей. В 1985 году глава ИПИВЖ Петр Колесников разбил голову об руку вождя и случайно столкнул с балкона партийную работницу Преображенскую, пытаясь совершить
Now this guy looks definitely like a crackhead.
Get it? Crackhead. He cracked his head, or whatever.
And I think we've already seen this woman. Is it Nikolai Preobrazhensky's wife? We then cut back to the Ray incident again.
Attention, unknown object in the area of Rakaselsk village. Act following the D1 protocol. 1. Bring your loved ones and pets to the underground premises. 2. Close off any cracks. Turn off all radio devices and televisions except for the karmativ. 3. Wear breathing protection. 4. Turn on the defense mode on your karmativ. 5. Wait for help.
You might be wondering what the hell a karmativ is. We'll find out soon. We then see the ray-type entity again and hear a woman's voice.
Мы были вынуждены прервать наш эфир срочной новостью. Неизвестный сигарообразный объект в небе, предположительно относящийся к типу луч, направляется в сторону села Мусунка. Всем, кто находится в зоне возможной опасности, село Мусунка, село Рокосельское, временное поселение 1, временное поселение 3, необходимо действовать по протоколу Д1. Остальным запрещается выходить за пределы своих поселений и пытаться поймать любые радио- и телесигналы, кроме частоты ЦТЦ и РТЦ. В связи с этим мы напоминаем меры защиты против КП.
I'm gonna stop it here. We've been shown the map of the infected area and its current situation with the ray thing getting close. We then see what the karmativ actually is. It looks like the phones from Serial Experiments Lane or like the analog Twitter devices from the Monument Mythos, and we're told it has a signal mode in which the screen will turn to static, and if you see anything other than static, you need to immediately leave your current position. Then,
if you come across any of these entities, run. If you do encounter any of these forms of KP, cover your breathing organs and change your location. Ignore any images you see in your head. Turn on the defense mode signal on your karmativ.
Meanwhile, the voice is also telling us that if we meet any of these entities, we can try to destroy them using fire, if we get a chance. Also that in the case of headaches and hallucinations, we should immediately retrace our steps and turn on therapeutic films. If you see something that shouldn't or couldn't be in that place or time, it's a ray-type entity. Don't come into contact with it and try to get out of the way. If it attacks you, try to use the therapeutic recordings on your karmativ or some kind of fire to scare it off. Lastly, after getting out of the territory, immediately go to a bathhouse or breathe in hot vapors.
If you suspect that you or anyone else has KP, call the number.
And here we see our usual emergency number and some text telling us pretty much the same thing I just said, that KP is afraid of heat and you should try to raise your body temperature any way you can. Then we see the movements of the ray-type entity.
In red, we see the entity. In black and blue, a helicopter. At 7:30 a.m., we have the first attempts to phone the emergency number. At 9:30 a.m., the helicopter patrolling the area was informed about the ray. At 11 p.m., we get the crash. At 12 a.m., the object gets the code name Glass. The remaining helicopters are dispatched from the anniversary celebrations. The object was damaged, but it couldn't be destroyed. The failed attempt to drive away the object turned it towards Musunka. The helicopters turned back towards base. One of them kept monitoring the ray. Because of negligence, the ray got to Musunka sooner than the government expected. The population wasn't warned.
Then we get, ironically, a flash of CTC's logo with the text,
"Always close by."
We then get the advertisement for the Karmativ 25. They call it a pocket television. In Russian, карманный телевизор, ergo Karmativ.
Colorful, 4K variants,
And I can make out the yellow word.
24 hours of battery. It has built-in audio and video against KP. Hurry up to get the new batch.
We get the distribution location and a phone number. And
The Karmativ is free for families that don't have it yet.
then we get a different message.
We chose the path to the construction of a horrifying bloody machine.
With this drawing with what looks like Lenin's statue, maybe, crushing some people, and it's also interestingly colorless.
Because of this, our God turned away and abandoned us. Now the gates of hell have opened for us, and from them came forth all the horrors that this world had never seen. But suddenly, from our midst, a great man arose and challenged the terrifying evil spirit. Now, when we see how he battles with this ungodliness, we know the true face of our God. If you're suffering from the uncleanliness that came to our world, accept the true God, Alexei. Come to us. We will help you.
And we get an address.
Big Brother has betrayed us, leaving us alone with the evil, but we can fight by ourselves.
As we see Gorbachev's portrait with a halo behind his head, like some sort of saint. As the image zooms in, it seems like it's composed of many faces. We then see esoteric images flash with this logo on top, and a voice repeating, which means window. So that was a lot. The basic information about the karmativ seems pretty clear. It's a device used for the protection against KP and Ray entities. If we go by my previous theory, it's also helping with the brainwashing through those therapeutic films, which again, I have to underline this. Their content is related to the hallucinations of KP patients and to the F voice, which is the fractal voice we already mentioned, which is the trippy distortions that appear when in contact with the entities. The biggest mystery now is to understand what the real role of KP is in all of this. Are the patients zero asymptomatic infected trying to infect people with that strain while protecting them from the other deadly and deforming one? We saw that they wanted to have a hybrid of KP1 and 0, right? Also, we still don't have enough information about the religious stuff. But it does seem like it's a new force active in the story that not only goes against the government, but is actually advertised on TV. Suspicious. Also, you might have noticed that this last section had a bunch of text again, running in the lower part of the video. What's that about? Well, it's pretty much just very strange advertisements. Someone is selling canned food. Immediately after, someone is selling skins of Ray-type animals. Excuse me, what? What the fuck?
Axe-headed dogs,
which I found out are an actual American cryptid, which is pretty funny.
Crocodogs, living bumps
and something
cleaned from KP.
They also say that because of the dried hyphae, the skins are pretty resistant and long-lasting. And they also got already made clothes and other leather stuff. Oh, they also got coats made from furry snakes? That's nice. Then another ad.
Simple job, with a constant supply of produce and necessity goods. Only girls between 14 and 20. More information on the site.
Good girls. This one seems pretty obvious. We then get
simple cure for KP using shamanic knowledge.
Yeah, we've seen how good that is.
I'll teach you the powers of the ancestors. I'll speed up your recovery. Alexei.
I'm assuming this is the same Alexei that's being advertised as a god in the video itself. During the window segment, we get information at the bottom.
We'll sell anything that protects from KP. Window.
The last ad that gets cut out just starts with
how to make a garden inside your house.
We're then told the next broadcasts.
Conversations before sleep, evening 7. Evening session of therapeutic films. Animated series Man in the Frame.
And so we get the episode
How to Reach an Agreement with Others.
Однажды Дима, выйдя из своей комнаты, обнаружила плачущего Анди около кубиков лавы. «Что случилось?» — спросила Дима.
Лава дала мне разрешение поиграть на кубиках вместе с моей лучшей подружкой Пупой. Но я ее уронил, и ее теперь больше нет. Куда мне без моей куклы? Я уже неделю не могу играть с кубиками из-за людей. Моя бесчувственная амфибия.
Воскликнул Анди.
Это ты не понимаешь, глупая теплокровная.
Lava just dragon uppercuts Anti's ass and says, while he just lays there stunned. And then the audio is too distorted for me to understand it. Then the text.
Solve your conflicts with words, not violence.
Then we see the authors. The idea is from P.I. Kolesnikov And, of course, NK Preobrazhensky is responsible for everything else. Except when we get to the animation. It glitches and we make out Chermushkina's name. Then we have
Prophylactic therapeutic film number 1. Before the viewing, call your family over to combat the spread of KP.
and we get our usual fractals. Then we see a strange face with blank eyes, and we get backwards text.
That's broadcast stopped sooner than usual.
Its eyes tilt forward and then sideways.
I'm sorry if anyone wanted to watch Kima or other cartoons. I'd be outraged too.
And from the wording we understand that the speaker is female.
But one broadcast is worth your happiness, am I right? I feel like everyone wants to hear that. I know that the beast is scary and all of that, but he's a good friend. He wants everyone to be well. He just doesn't know how to engage with those with immunity. He helped me to get better
when your hands and feet are cut off. I don't want to be a tool. I want to see the sweet new person. I want to open my eyes.
Then we're back to fractals, and we can barely make out Mashka the cow in the background. Then the beast appears too, and we see the seraphim again. We then see this pretty face, and the text tells us,
recordings from this broadcast were made by V.I. Nosova, a citizen of Musunka.
I'm assuming they're talking about having used the Pygmalion device on her.
At this time, like the other 41 people, she's in the hospital of Epivsh in a coma. The spread of any information pertaining to the 17th of August, 1994 is still prohibited.
I'll remind you that Vovka's surname from the video descriptions is Nosov, so they might be related. And with this, we come to the end of the second to last video. For one, I wanted to mention that if the VHS effects look especially good here, it's because the author collaborated with Great VHS to actually put the episode through a real VHS tape. This, added to everything we saw, the brief video of the flying ray, the original ads and animations, and the voice acting, really shows you how much the series is evolving. I liked it before, don't get me wrong, and I love simple analog horror techniques, but it's always so cool to see this kind of branching out, like we saw even with Kister and Manicore, so cheers to that. At this point, I'd say let's just jump into the last episode, which is shorter, and discuss theories and stuff at the end, alright?
How are you holding up? Are you good? Maybe go get a drink or something? Alright.
Video 5.
The illness of the Chermushkin family.
So, this one is only 5 minutes, but it might be my personal favorite. Again, we have a long description and it seems like a continuation of the last one, where Nastya raised her hand. You're saying that this person had a toy of Kima? We all looked at Nastya. What the hell was she even on about? Yes, a toy of Kima. One of those that the Institute gave out during different events before KP. It's like nobody had even touched it. Nastya quickly grabbed a few tapes from the pile. On all of them there were names of patients, sometimes with errors and typos. After those, there was the session number, the name of a local psychiatric clinic, and the painfully familiar surname Preobrazhensky, with the name of the Pygmalion 402 device. Preobrazhensky is a head of CDC. He's closer to the cameras in the tapes than anybody else, started Nastya. He made conversations before sleep and many other broadcasts, and surely knew about all of these interferences, but didn't take them out. He's rarely seen, and judging by some broadcasts, he gets very tired. But you all know, now CDC broadcasts only a few hours a day. Furthermore, only he can allow egregious spelling mistakes and nobody will do anything about it. What are you getting at, you rascal? Laughed Nosov. To the fact that you cleaned out the secret layer of one of the heads of the Krapivniki. We're done for. You're bullshitting. What would that old fart be doing in those wild and infected woods? Well, Nastya and Vova bickered. I watched the tape. It's clear now why Chermushkina disliked Preobrazhensky and Nol so much. But then, why did he let Chermushkin work at the Ipivsh film studios, if there was such a conflict between them? Why did he bring this tape and all the others to his secret refuge? Why would he need to? What would he get from the informations about the dead people's doubles? Wait, it just dawned on me. The green markings, the green tape, the deciphering of the words encoded in the fractal interferences, the raising of the dead thanks to KP. I jumped up and like an insane person cried out, "Change of plans! Ira, Sasha, Nastya, find all of the fractal interferences in Chermushkina's library and in the other tapes. All of them look like writing or ciphers. Decipher them. Understand what's written in them. Guys, Vovka will show us the road. Take our karmatives. Prepare supplies and tapes for the cameras. We're going to the infected area for a week. We move in 12 hours. Now for the video.
On the 9th of March 1995, the Chermushkin widow and her son were hospitalized because of a heavy food poisoning. According to the mother, all they've been eating in the last month is wild wintered wheat seeds. After a few hours, the patients developed tonsillitis and stomatitis. On the 5th day, they had extensive necrosis and strong hemorrhages. On the 10th day, the patient's condition stabilized, and soon they were discharged from the hospital. The following film was created thanks to a Pygmalion 402 device in October Psychiatric Hospital, the 25th of June 1996, as an experimental treatment method.
We see some archival footage of life in a Soviet city, then a widow with flowers and the picture of Ivan Chermushkin, one of the victims from the Rakosel incident. We then see his death certificate. We then see a door, and someone keeps ringing the bell.
Where are you?
Walking.
Where?
In the air. I was seeking a direction. The corners lower, the folds of the expression, swelling of the capillaries, salty liquid. Struggle with the current solution of the problem. The husband was gone, the husband is back, and instead of happiness, fear, furious competition, extinction, primitivism. Happiness is symbiosis, growth, complexity.
Why are you staring like that?
You were alone and you were broken. Come back, and the problem is gone. We have to fix everything that was broken. Now everyone needs to be whole.
We then see two people who look like two versions of Chermushkin with growths over them. We see a city covered in growths and get text about the mimoid. Mimoids are these things that can be found in the novel Solaris, which look more or less like this. The text reads,
Mimoid, unlike its literary counterpart, KP's mimoid really inspect, transform, and reproduce forms from memory and reality.
We see a TV on which a therapeutic film is playing.
Soon, a new type of ray called doppelgangers took hold of the city. They came back to their facilities, found their families, and tried to imitate normal humans. People soon found a use for them, making them work the simplest jobs. This way, the city started gradually recovering. Lately, we've been noticing more beings that look like deceased people. If you recognize them, call.
Now, with the doppelganger thing, many of you will immediately think Mandela Catalog, which is what I thought too. But it gives its own spin to it, seeing as these doppelgangers don't seem to have nefarious plans for now, and are weirdly accepted in society. Also, Gemini had already done the fake people thing, so it's not like it's copyrighted. Also, the imagery with the hyphae there at the end actually gives very strong Gemini vibes. So, let's try to make some sense of all of this. First of all, KP. We know that KP is an airborne fungal virus with prehistoric origins. We've been shown its effects many times and we have seen different manifestations of it. For example, normal KP1 in people and animals causes deformations and often leads to painful deaths. KP0, the one they call the asymptomatic variant, which does nothing to you, obviously that's BS. We've seen a few mentions of symbiosis and this seems like a perfect example. I think it's pretty obvious that KP0 still has effects, but it doesn't destroy the host. It probably controls or influences their mind in some way, and its objective seems to be to spread to the whole universe like a giant interconnected fungus. Then we have Ray-type entities. Now, it's vague as to what exactly can be categorized as Ray, but we've seen that it can get very big and destructive. And the doppelgangers were put in this category too. KP itself and humans or animals infected with it also show other traits, like having an effect on electronics to the point of being able to interface with them directly, probably some kind of a hive mind, which makes sense with the whole fungus thing. In the last episode, we've also got information about the memoid, and apparently they can bring things from memories to reality, like for example bringing back a loved one. So I'm thinking that the Ray entities are what these memoids create, as in they're not actually people or animals who get infected, but the direct product of the virus organism. Moving on, we got IPIFSH, a university and research institute at which our main characters, so to speak, work. This being Vladimir and Anastasia Nol, Nikolai Preobrazhensky and Valentina Chermushkina. The IPIFSH is obviously into some shady stuff, and we also see that these guys become the leaders of the Krapivniki party, which apparently saved the city of Centrosibirsk from total collapse. Now, I'll get my personal theory out of the way. I think that the Nols are infected with KP0 and are working to create a new generation of superhumans, continuing previous government projects. To do this, they want to infect everyone with the virus and reprogram their minds, probably with the use of the therapeutic films, all in the name of communist-type ideas and to spread beyond the Earth, which resonates well with a fungal virus, right? Now, another possibility is actually that there are two forms of infection at war here. People like the Nols with KP0 are actually a sort of symbiotic hybrid between humans and KP. Their goals are aligned, and that's why they're still battling KP1, which is more destructive and unpredictable. This would also explain why the therapeutic films are made by recording the infected people's minds, and why the imagery is always the same. It all comes from the same source. It's just being used by two opposing forces. This is also where, for me, the beast comes into play. It seems like it's doing the same thing, but for its own growth and empowerment. That's why it wants everyone to feel well, but it also doesn't know what to do with those immune. Now, the KP0 infected might be the immune ones, or they could actually just be people that are completely immune to the virus, but we haven't seen those yet. I don't know, I might be totally off track here. I hope you'll give me some help in the comments. Now, we also have Nikolai Preobrazhensky. If we're to assume that we can recognize the infected by their darkened and swollen eyes, he's definitely one of them. But it seems to me like he's working somewhat against the others, which would imply that the KP0 infected are still capable of free will. It seems like he's hiding all of those messages in his broadcasts and bringing tapes to his secret refuge, which our present-day team wants to go and inspect. It all seemed tied to his family's death somehow. Maybe that pain freed him from the mind control? We see that he was obsessed with only one goal and didn't listen to his daughter while she was begging him for help. But then again, Chermushkina disliked him, and she seemed normal. Also, I've got like an actual undiagnosed dyslexia for dates. I'm really bad with those. And it doesn't help that the creators are inconsistent with them and sometimes switch them around. It seems like between 1980 and 84, we had some bad floods in the area, which messed with the crops and stuff. We also have apparently the KP breakout around this time, which probably isn't a coincidence. But these two factors combined throw Centrosibirsk into misery. The USSR stopped sending provisions in 1989, thus initiating the Great Hunger. But as we see, it ends in 2000. So, in that time span, the IPIVs, with their advancements and their government takeover, start putting the city back together. Things are accelerated when the doppelgangers arrive and are put to work on the simple jobs. We understand that people still live in Centrosibirsk, although it seems like the outside world forgot about them. And KP is still around and there are dangerous infected areas and stuff. I don't know. There's still so much to cover, like what's the role of David Preobrazhensky in all of this? Who's the new god, Alexei, and what's his angle? Is a larger government at play in all of this, or is Centrosibirsk actually isolated? What's up with Mashka, the cow reappearing once in a while? What's with the mutant humanoid figure? And most importantly, who the hell is selling furry snake coats? So, I have to stop, if not my head will explode. With that, we covered all the episodes published so far. And I thought I would have to disappoint you at the end, because in the last video the creators announced that they'd stop making the series, because they wanted to turn it into a book. But as I'm writing this, a new teaser came out with the announcement that the series will be back on the 23rd of July. And apparently the book is on hold, which is a shame admittedly, but I can't complain. So if you'd like, I can cover the new episode in the next video. And please, again, go give the creators some love, they deserve to be more well known. Especially because there's this general sentiment in the comments that all Russian analog horror is garbage except this one. I don't know how true that is, but it's gotta count for something. That said, this has gone long enough already. Please help me make sense of it all in the comments. Goodbye and...
See you, space comrades.